Well, we actually have obtained new movement records, GPS data, obtained this from a Mississippi entity, and it actually shows exactly where the boat left from when it arrived at Horn Island.
There is one person who saw Nolan Wells in his final hour who was never on that boat. Her name is Katie, and this week, her family finally spoke. What they say does not match the story Nolan's friends put on the record. It doesn't match it on the single most important question in this entire case. Which direction Nolan was headed when they parted ways? For nearly 2 weeks, only one version of that answer existed. That just changed. And it changed in the same 48 hours that state GPS data. Official data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. Not a rumor, not a Facebook post. Mapped every mile that boat traveled on July the 4th, minute by minute, including where it went after it left the water entirely. There is also audio now, a distress call from that boat, and a headcount spoken out loud to a dispatcher that raises a question nobody has answered. On top of all of it, a grand jury is now confirmed. This case is going to one. If you have been following Nolan's story, everything you thought was settled about that afternoon is about to get more complicated. If you want the verified version, not the viral one, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because this is the week the official record finally started talking. Let's start with the machine that cannot lie, cannot forget, and cannot change its story.
The vessel reaching Horn Island around 11:14 a.m. And then we also see when the boat left. Now, as we've been reporting, Nolan Wells was not on that boat, although his keys and phone were. And so we see the boat then go and actually dock at a different location.
Most of you know the outline by heart. Nolan Xavier Wells, 18 years old. A wide receiver at Southwest Mississippi Community College, weeks away from turning 19. On July the 4th, he left from a private dock in the Ocean Springs area and traveled by boat with a group of friends to Horn Island, a remote barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. He was last seen around 3 p.m. on the island's northwest tip. Blue swim trunks, sunglasses. His friends came home. He did not. 2 days later, on the morning of July the 6th, a park ranger found his body in the water just off that same northwestern tip. That was the outline. Here is what's new. GPS data obtained by CBS News from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources now tracks the boat's movements that day. And NBC News has published dispatch audio to go with it. Around 4 p.m., roughly an hour after Nolan was last seen, the boat malfunctioned. The bilge pump failed, the boat began taking on water, and the friends called for help. That call is now public. The voice on it says, "We're at the west tip of Horn. Our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking." The dispatcher asks if everyone on board is in good health. The caller says yes, everybody is on board, and then he gives a number, 7 people. Sit with that number. Because the audio does not clarify whether that count included Nolan. It doesn't name anyone. It doesn't say who is standing on that deck. 7 people. Everybody accounted for.
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Nolan went to the island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later. It's unclear whether Nolan was with anyone when he disappeared.
An hour after the last confirmed sighting of Nolan Wells. That single word, 7, may end up being one of the most examined syllables in this investigation. The GPS picks up from there. The data shows the boat was towed for about 3 miles before resuming normal speed less than an hour later. Around 5:44 p.m., it returned to the location it originally departed from. Then, at 7:19 p.m., the boat arrived at the Fort Bayou boat launch. It was pulled out of the water, and it traveled overland to the home of its owner. According to reporting on the case, the boat's owner, his mother, and a third unidentified person have been cooperating with authorities, so the boat's day is fully mapped. Departure, breakdown, tow, return, trailer, driveway, every mile, time-stamped by a state agency. The boat has an alibi. Nolan does not have a timeline. From 3 p.m. onward, on an island packed with holiday visitors, there is not one confirmed sighting of him. Crime scene investigator Cheryl McCollum called that hard to believe. An island full of people that day, any of whom may have unknowingly caught him on camera. Investigators are still combing through footage from strangers right now, but the GPS only answers where the boat went. It cannot answer the question Katie's family just raised, because that question was never about the boat. Before we get there, if this timeline is new to you, hit subscribe, because this case is moving daily and the next update is already forming. To understand why Katie's account matters, you need the Friends version exactly as it was given, not paraphrased by the internet, the actual statement. It came from Ashley Cole, a Jackson County Chancery judge, and the mother of one of the friends on that trip. On Facebook, she stated that her son Warren was interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully, that he last saw Nolan around 3 p.m. on July the 4th, that the group left around 4:30 when the boat was taking on water, and they had an issue with the bilge pump, and that Nolan, in her words, made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. That is the account. A judge's son, interviewed, cooperative, on record. Sheriff John Ledbetter has echoed the core of it, saying that from what investigators understand, Nolan chose to stay there. And to be fair to that friend group, they have already been vindicated once. Twice, actually. The viral pool party photo that convinced half the internet Nolan was alive on July the 5th? Rolling Stone traced the metadata, taken June the 27th, 8 days before Horn Island. The viral boat video with a voice screaming about a phone, the voice attorney Ben Crump initially believed was Nolan's. Nolan's friend Triseston Shepard went on Good Morning America and said it plainly. That's the video I'm referring to, and that's me yelling. Shepard gave a statement to the Sheriff's Department, and for correcting the record, he and others in that friend group say they have received death threats. Whatever you believe about this case, that is not justice. That is noise. But here is the thing about the verified record. Strip away every debunked theory, and the friend's account still has to answer to 2 moments it did not create. The first is that dispatch audio and its head count of 7. The second came later that same night. Around 11 p.m., one of Nolan's friends contacted the United States Coast Guard. The Coast Guard determined the incident did not require their assistance. An hour later, at midnight, it was Nolan's mother, Christine Wansley, who filed the missing person report. The full search launched the next day. The Department of Marine Resources, the Coast Guard, the National Park Service, the United Cajun Navy. And on July the 6th, at roughly 8:45 in the morning, it ended in the worst way possible. The Jackson County coroner, Bruce Lind, confirmed the identification, not visually, not by a family member, through dental records, so the friend's account is on the record. It has survived 2 viral falsehoods, and now for the first time, it is being contradicted not by an anonymous Facebook post, but by the account of the last person who spoke to Nolan Wells. Katie was on Horn Island on July the 4th. She was with Nolan in his final documented hour. She was never on that boat. And until this week, her side of that afternoon simply did not exist in public. Now it does. Through her family. A McCormick family member, identified in reports as Gracie McCormick, confirmed publicly that Katie spent time with Nolan on the island that day, that the 2 parted ways before he went missing, that Katie left Horn Island on a different boat, and, this is the detail that stops you, that Katie left believing the friends who were telling Nolan to get on the boat would never leave without him. Her family says they have given, in their words, all the answers we can give to Nolan's family and to authorities. Katie got home safely that day. She did not see what happened after they separated. She is not accused of anything. She is a witness. Possibly the most important one, because here's where her account collides with the official version. The friends say Nolan made a decision to stay on the island, but according to Ben Crump, the family's attorney, the young woman later said Nolan returned to the boat. Returned to the boat. That is not a small discrepancy about timing or memory. Those are 2 different endings to the same afternoon. In one, Nolan waves his friends off and stays behind by choice. In the other, he walks back toward the vessel that left without him. Crump has said the accounts given by the boys on that trip contained contradictions, including conflicting versions of why Nolan stayed behind at all. To be precise about what's verified here, the contradiction is Crump's characterization made publicly as the family's attorney. Katie has not spoken on camera. Her family has not held a press conference, but her account is now with investigators. And investigators now have GPS coordinates, dispatch audio, and a head count to test every version against. Which of these two revelations hits harder? The head count of 7 or Katie's account through her family? Tell me in the comments, because what happened 3 days ago is the reason none of these questions will quietly disappear. On July the 15th, Nolan's parents, Christine and Elmore Wonsley, walked into a meeting with Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath in Pascagoula. Attorneys Ben Crump and Eric Hertz walked in with them. Crump described the meeting as respectful, and what came out of it moved this case across a legal threshold. Once the sheriff's office completes its investigation, the district attorney's office will present this case to a grand jury that is now confirmed by the family's legal team. A grand jury does not mean charges exist. It has not been seated yet, but it means ordinary citizens, not officials, not attorneys, not the internet, will examine the facts of how Nolan Wells died, and District Attorney McElrath will ultimately decide whether his death is a prosecutable crime. Sheriff Ledbetter's public commitment: the Nolan Wells family deserves a thorough and factual investigation, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Even the governor weighed in. Tate Reeves, at a press conference in Jackson, said he has full confidence in the investigators handling this case. When a death investigation reaches the governor's podium, it is no longer a local story. And the phone, the single most contested object in this case, finally has a path forward. Nolan's phone was in the possession of a friend when he went missing. His mother has alleged that content she expected to find on it was gone. That allegation remains hers, unverified. But at the July 15th press conference, Crump announced both sides have agreed to a mutual inspection. Attorney Eric Hertz is leading a team of former law enforcement experts for the download, with sheriff's investigators present at the same time. In Crump's words, everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has. No custody battle. No accusations of tampering. One download. 2 sets of eyes. Whatever is on that phone, or missing from it, both sides will learn it together. Now the full picture, honestly stated. The cause and manner of Nolan's death have not been determined. Investigators have said they suspect drowning, but the state autopsy, performed at the Mississippi Medical Examiner's Coast Lab, is still pending toxicology. The family commissioned an independent autopsy in Washington, D.C., funded with help from Colin Kaepernick. Those results were expected days ago. They have not been released. They could drop at any moment. And when they do, they will either calm this case or detonate it. No one has been charged. This remains a death investigation. Every contradiction discussed today is exactly that. A contradiction awaiting resolution, not proof of a crime. On Monday, July the 20th, Nolan will be laid to rest at Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs. Tyler Perry is covering the funeral expenses. His mother is calling it a home-going celebration, with a gathering afterward at the Jackson County Fairgrounds, because she said he would not want us sitting around crying. And she made one request of everyone watching this case: if you protest, keep it peaceful. Nolan, she said, was never that kind of person. 2 days from now, his family buries him without answers. But for the first time since July the 4th, the answers have a destination: a grand jury, a joint phone download, 2 autopsy reports, and a witness account that finally exists on the record. If this video gave you something the noise didn't, share it with someone who cares about this case, like it, so the algorithm carries the verified version further than the viral one. And subscribe, because the moment the autopsy results or the phone findings land, we will break them down here. Which question should investigators answer first? The head count or Katie's account? Drop it below. We will see you in the next one.